All right. To some other stuff.
Yeah. Aki's A-list.
We discussed a little bit about Trey Smith, and the news today, the Kansas City Chiefs are reportedly going to put the franchise tag on Trey Smith with hopes of getting a long-term deal done. So it looks like a guy who may have been the Bears' top priority in free agency is going to be off the board and unavailable for them. And I thought Robert Mays had an interesting point when he joined you guys at the Combine the other day, talking about who he would actually prefer at the guard position.
Fries. He said fries.
The way that I look at it, again, Will Fries is the guy I keep coming back to. If I could pay Will Fries $12 million a year instead of paying Trey Smith $24 million a year, I think that's what I would do. I want workable options on the interior of the offensive line. I don't want to break the bank for top-of-the-market guys on the interior of the offensive line. That's my personal approach to it.
See, and I love Mays. He's one of my favorite guys because he's got a huge football brain. I'm not so opposed to breaking the bank, that portion of it.
Neither am I.
Because
for
they
a
have money.
26-year-old great player.
If you were cap strapped or you were on the cusp of having to pay your quarterback who's going to break the bank, then I get it. Your quarterback is in his second year. You've got the cash to sign both guys.
Yeah.
You could sign Fries and Trey Smith if he was available. So
I still, I know you guys keep saying what everyone else is saying, and I'm not saying that they won't sign him or they won't agree to a deal, but they're also short on funds, and he knows he can reset the market with a $24 million per year deal over multiple years with a large signing bonus. So knowing that he's going to reset the market, instead of losing him for nothing, maybe they can get a third or fourth round pick in a trade for him. Why wouldn't, maybe that's the thinking here. Maybe they know teams like the Bears and others are desperate for interior linemen, and why not get a pick instead of just losing him for nothing?
I mean, to give him a contract that resets the market already is something that not everybody can consume. And now I have to give up a third or fourth round pick as well.
That would turn you off?
That would make it. Yeah, I mean, I can guarantee you.
You gave up a fifth round pick for Bates.
Yeah, I know, but I can't.
You know what I mean?
I'm going to work in a different sphere.
You drafted a punter with a fourth round pick.
I would not have.
I'm just saying what they've done in the past. They know teams are desperate. They know it's a light free agency class, and he was the headliner.
But aren't the Chiefs kind of desperate on the offensive line, too?
They are, but they also have a lot invested, and they need another tackle, don't they?
They do, yes.
They do. They could draft a tackle. They could also keep Trey Smith and just kick the can down the road. That's kind of what the franchise tag gives you the flexibility to do.
I guarantee you they're going to rework Mahomes' deal somehow, some way. Yeah. They're going to tweak it to create space. They may do the same with Kelsey as well.
I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I'm just saying keep an open mind to it.
Listen, I mean, if you're the Chiefs, I guess I'm going to ask the question, thinking and trying to answer it at the same time. How many other teams have tried to do that? Like T. Higgins, they never tried to trade T. Higgins. They gave him the franchise tag and didn't because they wanted him.
They wanted him. And I know they want Trey Smith, but can they afford him on a multi-year deal?
But here's the deal as well. Depending on what you do in free agency, don't you get a comp pick? If you lost someone like Trey Smith in free agency, wouldn't you be in the market for getting that comp pick?
It depends who you sign, too.
Right.
The Bears traded a second-round pick for Montez Sweat and signed him.
Yes. That is true.
Desperate times call for desperate measures, and the Chiefs know this.
No, I'm not saying it's 100% not going to happen. My chips would be on no.
Yeah.
My chips would be on the Chiefs understand.
I'm an underdog here. I know this.
The Chiefs saw what happened to them at the point of attack at the Super Bowl. They don't want to see that again.
All right, Tyler.
Myles Garrett, this report today from Mary Kay Cabot, who covers the Browns for Cleveland.com. Myles Garrett is not open to a contract extension with the Cleveland Browns. And now, if people remember this too, when this story initially came out of, Myles Garrett's requesting a trade, sure, there might be some contractual stuff tied to it there, but he's still pretty well compensated for the next couple of years. And he said that his desire is more so for the ability to play for a contender, and he does not view the Browns as that right now. So he's looking more towards
He's got 2 years left on a 5-year, $125 million contract.
And Courtney Cronin put out a good article today.
But also, I'm sorry, but he has no more guaranteed salary left, is what it says here.
Okay. But yeah, so Courtney put out an article today, is kind of looking through all the different avenues that the Bears could search for a pass rusher. Feel like kind of how we're coming out of the combine now. Maybe it's the temperature for some people has changed on the Bears in terms of Ben Johnson and the Bears. Your optimism for the Bears, based off of what Ben Johnson said. Where are you on the likelihood that Myles Garrett is moved before next season?
This is so tough because I was talking to Andrew off the air about this too. How many guys are willing to miss games to force the trade? So they could play hardball with him, and most likely Myles Garrett is going to play. He's going to hold out. Now, do you want more?
Get paid.
You're right. You don't get. Well, would he ever do that?
Yeah, I know. I mean that you have to factor that in. Like, if he sits out, he's not going to get paid.
And that's what he's saying is how many guys are really willing to miss game checks? And the answer to that is probably not many.
No.
And so he thinks that when push comes to shove, he would still play for the Browns because he wants to get paid. The Browns also, though, don't want any more drama. They've already had enough with Deshaun Watson. Do they want an entire training camp where Myles Garrett isn't in camp or is doing a sit-in and he's not a hold-in or whatever they call these, where he's not practicing? And every day it's about that. And then you get off to a slow start because he's not in the right shape. And do you just say we could still get top of market compensation before the draft? Because we do need picks too.
I think there is probably a deal that they can't refuse where they would in fact trade him, but I don't believe they're going to quote unquote give him away for less than market value. But I wouldn't close the door on them dealing him. I wouldn't. Again, I mean, as Andrew Siciliano said to us on a number of occasions, they don't want to trade him. He doesn't think they will trade him. But if somebody comes to the table with an offer that is crazy, you know, in relative terms, then they will more than likely consider that.
The smart thing to do would be to trade him. It's just an organization that really hasn't made a whole lot of smart moves recently, so you can't trust that they're going to do it.
Now, but they would respond to you, Jack, by saying, look, we were a year removed from being in the postseason. Did they win a playoff game? Or did they lose to Houston in the first round?
Yeah, they did. They had
Joe Flacco leading them. Like, obviously, they need to solve their quarterback issue, but they have some talent on their team. And if they are able to solve their quarterback issue, they could get back to being a playoff caliber team again. That's how they're going to sell it to Myles Garrett. I wouldn't rule out them trading him at all. I wouldn't.
Neither would I.
Would you say
if I'm the Bears,
yes or no?
I still say yes. Didn't we answer that at the beginning of the week? Or was that something else? That was Stafford. I'm going to say 60-40 yes. 65-35 yes. Somewhere in that area.
Well, he's saying, too, that he doesn't want to negotiate a contract. He's got no guaranteed money left on his contract. Will he be able to force a trade? The Browns are a weird organization. I'll go 55 yes, 45 no.
Okay.
It's basically a coin flip for me.
Do you think it happens before or after the draft?
I think it has to happen before.
It would have to, yeah. You would want to use that pick if you
remember, the Browns are one of those teams that are super cash strapped right now. They save much more money by doing this after the draft.
I was going to say that, but what's his name from ESPN Cleveland who covers the team?
Tony Grossi?
Tony Grossi was saying that they would do it before the draft because
they would want to use the picks this year.
And yeah, you just can't wait that out and not have Myles Garrett and not have that draft compensation for this year either.
So if the deal is going to be done, despite the financial ramifications, they're more interested in getting whatever the pick is going to be.
And you figure out the salary cap, but you get young players. And how many teams can give you the 10th overall pick? And when I keep reading, Silvy, the Bears aren't ready to win now. One of the reasons why they're not ready to win now is they don't have a pass rusher like Myles Garrett.
They don't have enough really, really, really good players. Nobody thought the Vikings were going to win 13 games last year. Nobody thought the Washington Commanders were going to go to the NFC title game last year. This is a sport where it's proven year after year after year you can go from last to first. I'm not predicting it, but it can happen. And if you add a 29-year-old elite pass rusher who has, in my opinion, been the best defensive player in the league the last 2 years to your team that can afford to give him a contract extension because your quarterback is on a rookie deal, I think it's something you have to look at seriously.
By the way, this portion of Waddle and Silvy, usually Crosstalk, is brought to you by Steinhoffel's 6 Chicagoland locations, including the newest one in Orland Park. And we thank Steinhoffel's for being our partner in getting us to the NFL Combine for the second straight year. What else, Tyler?
This was news from last night after we had already left. Doctors have advised Abdul Carter against having foot surgery. Now, the news that initially broke last night was that he's having a stress reaction in his right foot.
Yeah.
His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, says that will be a non-factor in his draft stock, but you never know what teams
Dr. Drew Rosenhaus?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know what this could do for any player's draft stock because injuries, especially when you're picking up there.
I'm not a doctor either, like his agent, but I heard Carmen and York talking about this today. It doesn't sound like something that I think will worry teams significantly.
I hope it does. I'm rooting for it to worry
him to
teams.
drop.
Yes.
Now, I can't imagine it's going to
won't worry
9 teams.
Yeah, it won't worry teams enough for him to drop to 10.
If he starts slipping 3, 4, 5,
then you can move up for him.
Would you move up for him?
Mm-hmm.
If, in fact, you were sold as he is by far the best pass rushing talent in this draft and is a guy that is, a true blue chip talent, then yeah, I would.
I mean, this
I don't
could
think
be,
he's getting there.
I don't think he's going to.
Now you have another superstar to be, hopefully, on a rookie contract.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do the Jalen Carter fall, but this is a guy who, especially if you watch that semifinal game that he had against Notre Dame, and he played that game with one arm and was such a game wrecker in that one against one of the best offensive lines in college football too. Nonetheless, so it's something that I definitely would look at if it starts to get to that point.
Yeah, it probably won't, but when I read that yesterday, I was rooting for it. That's for sure. Is that bad? Does that make me a bad human?
Nope.
Rooting for him to drop? He didn't even know he had this. This was discovered during the medicals. He's played with this.
By the way, these guys are going to make their life-changing money on the second contract. The dip from 1 to 10 would be significant, don't get me wrong. But he's going to make the bulk of his life-altering cash with the second contract.
Yeah. I've seen other people say that if they were him, they would get it fixed now and get it out of the way.